Ying. Today I will talk about animal communication. And you know, animals communicate with each other for different ways. But what forms do they communicate? How do they communicate? And when do they communicate? And of course, I will introduce some animals about their interest in animal communication. And in our daily life, we can easily to see that animals use their gestures to communicate. And for the example, the facial expression. This is another way to communicate in animal kingdoms. And for example, like dogs and cats, the dogs, they show their happiness through sticking their tongue or just shaking their tails. And there is another way, it's called gaze, that by monitoring each other's head and eye orientation for communicating. And also, there is another way called vocalization. Vocalization is voice to communicate. And when animals are mating rituals, giving the warning calls, and conveying the location of food sources and social learnings, they are all use the vocalization communication. And there are also another method called olfactory, the bioluminescence, and the electrical communications. And these are all the forms of the animal communication. And you can see, for the different animals, they of course use different communication ways. And there are visual communication, auditory communication, and the tactile communication, and the chemical communication. And for our visual communication, it's a very common way in the animal kingdoms. Because this method of communication is very simple, fast, and accurate for communicating. And for instance, like the peacocks. Peacocks use their elaborate tails for carting the rituals, because I believe you have been seen before in the zoo. And the next is called auditory communication. Auditory communication happens in like whales, our wolves, and dolphins, and especially about our whales and dolphins. They use the sense of sound to look for their companions, their spouses, and they also detect food and the natural enemies as well. Because they have the well-developed fin and tentacles with full of nerves, sensitive nerves, and so that they can swim in the water, they can feel the changes of the water. They also can feel the enemy in which directions as well. And the next one is what we call tactile communication, which including like kissing, hug, gently stroking, or pet for each other and for exchanging communication. The example is called our horses. Horses kick other horses is for establishing dominance. And the animal releases certain chemicals to influence and control the behavior of other animals. This is the last one we call the chemical communication. So this can easy to explain why dogs always like to urinate and defecate everywhere. And of course, chemical communication also can maintain the order of the groups. So that there has a good example is ants. Ants use their pherophone trails to follow with each other. So when you know something about animal communication, I believe you can understand a little bit about what animals talking about in their daily life. So it's kind of interesting, right? So thanks for your guys listening and have a good weekend.